All right, everybody. My name's Alicia. I am with Level Up Score. I'm actually the founder of Level Up Score. And today I have Ann with McCarthy Law with me. And we're going to be talking about some common errors and disputes, those top FCRA errors and dispute language for today. So I'm so happy to have you here, Ann. Do you mind sharing a little bit of information about yourself?
Of course, of course. Thank you, Allie, and thank you, Level Up Score, for having me here today. My name is Ian McGillivray, and I am the business representative here, business development representative, excuse me, at McCarthy Law. As Allie kind of teed me up perfect, we are going to talk about some of the common errors and disputes that we see, top FCRA violations, and the dispute language to go along with those violations. So we'll go ahead and just jump right in. I'll give you a little bit of background about McCarthy Law, about myself, and then we'll go over those errors. So to begin, we were established in 2010. So we have been around for about 15 years now, and we have actually helped over 110,000 clients nationwide. Yes, one of the main questions that I get is, you can help people in all 50 states? Yes, we can. There is no out-of-pocket cost, credit error litigation, and the client can receive anywhere between $1,000 and $2,500 in damages. So, what is our mission? Our mission is we fight for the little guy. And so let's go ahead without further ado and jump into some of these errors, and we'll break it down by each specific error. So the first one that we typically see is a credit report shows a balance due on a settled or paid account. So one thing that we do recommend is documentation. So if that client has had that account settled, one thing that should be attached to these disputes is that settlement letter, payment confirmation, bank statements, anything proving that this client has either paid or settled this account. And remember, the key of this is the balance is zero. Even if there is a balance that shows zero, that is not a violation. It must show an actual balance. And so to break that down even further, we have two different types of languages for if it's been paid off or if it has been settled. So as you can see here, for the paid off, my credit report shows an outstanding balance owed to, and you would put the furnisher, the balance, and the account number. This account was paid in full and no further amount is due and owing. I'm requesting that this account be updated to reflect a zero balance. Please contact myself or furnisher to verify. And as you can see over here, I will not read each individual one, but as the settled one, you can see there a little bit of a different dispute language. Now, we do have a McCarthy Law dispute letter handbook. My email is there. And please reach out to us if that is something that you would like to see.
So I'd like
Now,
to stop here if you don't mind going back
yeah,
to just that first one there. A
mhm,
couple of things that you said, and I think I want to restate this, is you guys do work in all 50 states, which
yes.
is really great. So if you are a credit repair organization, or maybe you're wanting to start new in credit repair, this is a really great way to start if you want to be able to work with people nationwide, is to work with McCarthy Law, where you're not having, if you're not charging a consumer for the fees to be able to provide them this service where you're still making money potentially off of this after you're the client, but you're able to provide those services. So especially you guys that are new into this or looking at getting into credit repair, this is a great way to start building your client base before you get licensed and bonded, or if you just don't want to get licensed and bonded in all 50 states, right? You have a way of helping those people that come to you that may be outside of the state that you are licensed and bonded in as well. So I think that's really important. But the other takeaway that I got for this, actually, this first one is number one, if it's settled and paid and it's showing a zero balance, that's fine. That's not an FCRA violation. It's when the balance is showing up on that credit report on a account that was settled or paid, right? That would be a violation. But one of the things that I thought was really important, I want to point this out, and that's in that handbook, and a lot of you guys will get my handbook that I've created if you come to the class that I'll be doing next week. But your language here is really simple, Anne. Do I need to put like state the law and act like I'm an attorney or anything and writing my dispute letters? Do you see any benefit to that?
No, we really don't. And people ask me all the time, like, how basic do we need to make this language? I always tell people, like, you're explaining it to your grandmother. You need to just outline very specific, hey, it's this account, this balance, and what is going on. You don't need to add all of the FCRA violation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to reference that. we would like it as plain and simple as possible so anybody that reads it can understand what the issue is and what the error is.
Thank you for that, Anna. I appreciate that.
Of course. And so we'll go ahead and go on to number two. And so number two here is a report shows a balance after the creditor discharged the debt with a 1099-C. Now, we typically see this a lot more around tax season, right, when 1099-Cs are a lot more prevalent. And so one thing that we do say for the documentation is that 1099-C. That right there is the proof that shows that that debt was discharged, and it should not be reported on that account. And so once again, it is a zero balance, so a zero. And once again, the very simple dispute letter language. My credit report is displaying a debt owed. You show the furnisher in the amount of the balance from the credit report and the account number. This information is inaccurate as the debt was discharged and a 1099-C was issued by the furnisher. So once again, having that 1099-C attached with that dispute letter will go the extra mile because that is the proof.
I think this is really important, guys. You will find if you do your homework and you ask the client if they got a 1099-C first and foremost, that this is pretty often. I see this a lot, that there's a FCRA violation because the balance is still reporting on a written off account. Now, very important, you guys will see credit reports that will say charged off and written off. Sometimes that language is used as if it's the same thing, and it's not. But sometimes you're going to read a credit report that might say written off. Written off would definitely supposedly be a 1099-C situation where charge off is not. Charge off is a collection, right? So I think it's important for you to know the difference between those two languages on a credit report. But you should also know that the credit report sometimes will interchange that language. So it's not necessarily that the person got a 1099-C. So this is where you as a credit professional are going to have to ask your client, say, hey, I see some charge offs or I see some written off things on the credit report. Have you ever received a 1099-C for this? I think it's really important. And, if you guys are doing social media and stuff, let's talk about this because on social media, I'm hearing all the time people are saying, if you got a charge off, you don't owe it. That's not true. Charge off is not the same as written off. And written off sometimes is not really a written off. So I think if you guys are doing social media, this is a really good post to explain because the opposite is what is being explained on social media right now. There was another point that I had to this. Tell your clients to make sure they're watching their mailbox because here's where gold is left in their mailbox all the time. And I can't tell you how many times a person got a 1099-C, didn't know what to do with it, so threw it away, didn't understand what it is. Again, a nice social media post, guys. I'll throw some stuff out there for you, explaining what a 1099-C is, when you might expect to get one, when to be on the lookout for them, why it's so important to know if you got one, what they have to do with it. There's something with the tax code where you can have insolvency, where you actually don't have to claim it as income on your tax returns. There's a lot of things you could be teaching people in this space. So I just want to stop and just make sure you guys understand that and make your post. It's good stuff. Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, and Allie, I do want to highlight that point. Talk to your clients. That is the biggest thing, and I would really love to highlight that. If you don't know if the client got a 1099-C, you just have to ask them, right? And so that is the biggest thing, is just communicate with your clients and ask those questions. And so we'll go on to number 3 here. So number 3 is pretty self-explanatory, but it's a duplicate account on the credit report. So for something like this, there really isn't any documentation to prove that there are duplicate accounts on there. So we're going to look at a credit report here. And as you can see, this is a typical duplicate account. You have two accounts reporting on the same report. So TransUnion, we see 9161, and just the same one on the other TransUnion 9161. We do see that the balances are both the same. Once again, that 488, and it's obviously the same original creditor. So this is a very simple eye that you can use. It's just connecting the dots. Hey, if you're scrolling through that report and you've already seen that creditor and you've seen that balance, pull those two up side by side and just double check that all of the information is corresponding, and that would be a duplicate account. Now, the duplicate letter language is very simple, once again, because this is one of those things that it's right in front of you. You don't need the documentation to really prove. So once again, my credit report shows a debt owed to furnisher twice when I have only one account with that furnisher. I am requesting that you remove one of the duplicate accounts. If you have any questions about this, please contact myself or furnisher to verify. So once again, that simple dispute letter language, clear, concise, and to the point. Anybody can read this and understand that there are two accounts on the report when there should only be one.
And I have a little point on this as well, guys. On medical, you will often times see duplicate accounts or that something that appears to be a duplicate account. What I suggest, again, this is the communicating with your client, is have they received any bills from that creditor? So you can find out if it actually is duplicate reporting. And I'll tell you why. So I will ask for those statements and I'll look at them. And sometimes two things happened that were the same thing, happened one day apart. Okay. And it's going to show up on the credit report twice because it's actually two different bills. So I have seen that, and the account numbers are almost the same, because you got the last four or the first four, whatever you have, and they can appear to be the same. So kind of doing a little bit of homework would save a lot of time and effort for your client of just getting that documentation. Not that you need documentation like Ann said, but if you have that to kind of back it up, it's very helpful. But here's the other reason. You guys are going to fight for them to get that debt resolved, but what if it's an issue with the insurance company and insurance claims and stuff like that you can be helping your client resolve? So I've had many situations where I had duplicate reporting because I was billed twice for the same thing, right? And my insurance company also has a claim for the same thing. So I had to contact the insurance company and get that resolved with them as well. So I think there's a couple of different things here that I think are important for you guys to be looking at in terms of this duplicate reporting, specifically when it comes to medical collections.
Very much so. And I completely agree. Once again, you just got to talk to the client, because that is the biggest thing. There have been some instances, and we all know of some, where maybe they opened a credit card one day and then maybe 3, 4, 5 days later, they opened another one, same company. And then it reports very similar on their report. Once again, just ask, hey, did you open up 2 credit cards about 4 or 5 days apart? And if they're like, yes, I did. Okay, well, that's probably why I'm seeing 2 accounts like that. I see this account date and this account date, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, the communication between you and the client is the most important communication there is, because they can confirm different things that they have going on or what they've done, right? So that's the biggest thing. So number 4, a debt buyer and original creditor, both reporting a balance due. So this kind of goes into a little bit hand in hand with those duplicate accounts. But the debt buyer can begin reporting a balance, but the original creditor must stop. They can't both report the debt as due at the same time. So let's look at that a little bit further. So here we have an example. We have the collections company, and then we have the original creditor, right? As we can see, both have a balance that says $4,655. That should not be there. Somebody should have something that says 0, because you can't owe both of them, right? And so this is a very tricky one to kind of catch a little bit more. But as you can see up in the very top kind of left next to the collections company, you do see that the original creditor is that credit union. And then if we look over to the right, we do see that it is the same credit union. So you will have to compare and contrast a little bit more on this one. Just comparing the numbers, comparing the dates, et cetera, et cetera. But this is, once again, one of those things to ask your clients. Ask your clients if they have had something that is in collection, right? And if the original company has, sold that debt. And so definitely communicate with your client.
A key thing you can look at on the credit report too, if you look on the credit union side over here, the original credit reporting, in the comments, it says charged off as bad debt. Charge off generally says collection, right? Transfer to recovery or transfer to another lender. You'll typically see that kind of language. That when I see that language, then I'm like, whoop, 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 where's it at? I want to find the other one that matches that, right? And sometimes I don't. Sometimes the other one's not on there because maybe it hasn't reported yet or something. But that's what I'm looking for personally when I see that transferred to another lender.
Very much so. And so for this language is a little bit more, I don't want to say complex, But once again, it adds just a little bit more in the language. And so my credit report shows debts owed to the furnisher and the third party. These two accounts are the same account. So you're going to put the original furnisher right there in the amount of with the balance and the account number, and then you'll put the third party with that amount, the balance, and that account number once again. I am requesting that you remove one of these duplicate accounts. If any questions about this, please contact myself or Furnisher to verify. Once again, very simple. And when somebody does read this, doesn't matter who they are, they can clearly see what the issue is and what you are requesting in this dispute letter. So now, number five. Number five is definitely one that opens up a rabbit hole, okay? So an unknown account on a report. This is a very big one. One big piece of documentation that McCarthy Law must see is an FTC ID affidavit. If this is not that person's account, we must have an affidavit claiming that it is not their account, okay? And so just to give you a reference, an identity theft report right here. This sometimes can be touchy. A lot of times what people say is like they don't remember opening an account, so it is an unknown account. So at this point, it's getting all of the information to really confirm that this isn't. What do they know? Was something signed? Did they really open this account? Did they really charge this off? You know, et cetera, et cetera. All of these different things, because it does open up a rabbit hole. Because if you do fill out an FTC affidavit, it's legally binding. Okay, number one. And number two, the biggest thing is as a company, you cannot fill this out for your client. Your client must fill this out. And I want to really emphasize that. The client must fill this out. And so if a client comes to you and says, hey, there's an unknown account on my report, please tell them immediately, hey, fill out an FTC affidavit. Because that, like I said, that is legally binding.
And I like that you said a couple things here is there are often times you'll see something on the credit report. So let's just play a game here. You might see first progress on a credit report, but the credit card they have in their hand doesn't say first progress, right? Or the credit card they had that got charged off didn't say first progress. So they sometimes mistakenly think that they didn't have that card because it's reporting on the credit report with a different name, right? Than the retail bank maybe they got it from or whatever, right? So I think again, you're communicating with your client just to verify before you go through all this mess, right? But this is essential. And again, you're not filling this out. I don't know how many times I hear credit repair companies are filling this out for the client. You cannot fill this out. Do not fill this out. This is for the client to fill out. Can you help explain it to them? Yes. But I think it's also very important that you let them know that this is a legal document. This is not a game. If they really do know what it is, they can't be pretending they don't, number one. Number two, it's also a good time to have a conversation because sometimes people will see something in the credit report and they'll go, I know who did that. And I had this. I had a mom who did it to her son. We investigated. She went to jail for 15 years. Okay. The conversation before we investigated was, because it was a federal debt, are you wanting to go down this rabbit hole because this is your mom? And he said yes, because she did it to my brother too, and she's hurting both of us. So we went through with it, and she is in federal prison for 15 years. So it's not a game, you know, and I think that's really important for everyone to know this is not a game.
Very much so. And through all of these errors, through all of these disputes, remember the common theme is communication with your clients. They can tell you and they can paint that picture. And honestly, it's like being a little bit of a detective. It's picking and weeding through all of the conversation to confirm all of the errors, right? And specifically in this instance, like Ali just gave, there are many different instances that we see that sometimes people are unaware of the consequences going down this route. So this is definitely a very big one. And please just be transparent to your clients about it. So
no credit.
Yes. Thank you. My credit report is showing an account with blank furniture. I have no knowledge of this account and believe it is the result of identity theft. I have attached my FTC identity theft affidavit to this dispute. So once again, you will attach that to the dispute. Like I said, this is how we get more traction on these disputes is because you have this documentation supporting it. I am requesting that the account can be removed from my credit report, and that if any information in my FTC identity theft affidavit is reporting on my credit report, that you remove that information as well. Once again, big implications, so please just make sure. And so now we're going to, like you've kind of seen, dispute letters. So simple and direct. So some must-haves. Some must-haves are name, social security number, date of birth, and please, please, please identify the account and the issue. It's really difficult for anybody to get a dispute letter and look at it, and if you're not identifying the account or the issue, they're unsure. What is the account and what is the issue? What's going on? We can't mind read, as people say, right? Now, nice to have. These aren't musts, but these definitely pack a punch and give you that much more oomph in your dispute letters. Supporting documentation for one. And then second, plain and simple dispute language. Not everybody understands FCRA, the legal language, when you reference that. But most people will understand, hey, this isn't my account, it's a duplicate, right? And so that simple language we see tends to have a lot more traction. Now next, a little bit on our affiliate side. So here at McCarthy Law, we do have an affiliate program. You can receive more information at the end of this live stream. There will be a QR code that you can scan to receive more information, and one of our representatives will reach out via phone or email and figure out the best time in order to have that conversation. But this is our affiliate portal. One of the ways that you send referrals over to us. We have made it very simple, easy, and streamlined because, hey, we understand that sometimes it is difficult getting all the documentation together, getting everything prepared, getting the PDFs downloaded, et cetera, et cetera. So we have made it a simple form fill with name, email, phone number. We do ask that you put your company name and your name as well, just so we can make sure that that is attributed to you. So please make sure when you do use a portal, if you do want to hear more information about the affiliate program, please make sure to fill out all of that information to the best of your ability. Now, there may be that thought in the back of your head, what does McCarthy Law really look for? What do we really do? And so this statement right here will break it down for you. We litigate any factual errors that lower credit scores or cause denials. So once again, we litigate any factual errors that lower credit scores or cause denials. That sums up the base of what we do. If there's a duplicate account and it's lowering that credit score, right there. Or let's say that there's a balance on a settled or paid account and that has caused possibly a denial. For some cases, once again, that is something that we would love to see and we would love to assist with. So client journey, when we speak about McCarthy Law and our affiliate program, as you can see, as the credit repair organization, you have now identified that error and you have gone through a round of disputes. You have used the simple language, you have attached the documentation, and 30, 45 days later, you pull that credit report and you see that those errors are still on there. That is a prime indicator that we would love to see that client and see that credit report. It is a potential FCRA violation. Now, of course, transparency and communication with the client is key. We've been nailing that in this entire live stream. Client outreach, please let your clients know what is going on and the next steps. If you are referring them to us, please let them know so that when they do get a phone call from us, they're not like, oh my gosh, why is a lawyer calling me? Because in a lot of cases, sometimes people don't want to answer those calls. And so please let them know, hey, somebody from McCarthy Law will be reaching out to you to discuss this. Now that handoff, you have put that person through that affiliate portal, and we are going to reach out to them in order to assist them. What we will then do is we're going to go through a litigation review. We're going to confirm that this is a potential FCRA violation, and please attach those dispute letters that you just sent on the affiliate portal, because we would love to see that. That will make it a little bit more litigation ready if we do confirm that it is a potential FCRA violation. Now, if we do see that the dispute letter hasn't been great, or there have been 20 items on that dispute, we will go ahead and redispute that. And we will redispute that single item by itself, because once again, we want to confirm that that is an FCRA violation. Once we do confirm that it is an FCRA violation, a case is filed. Now, as you can see here, McCarthy Law, we do pay a referral fee for our affiliate program. Once again, if you would like to hear more information about that, please scan the QR code at the very end. But one thing that we do here is we actually pay out our referral fee the month after that case has been filed. Whereas the client, to receive their $1,000 to $2,500, they will wait until the resolution and or settlement. Okay. Now, this is a perfect graph to kind of show the client journey. If you have any other questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. So I want to open it up to any questions. Please feel free to shoot them on in the chat.
And I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to start so we can get the ball rolling and people can start asking questions. But what have you seen in working in this area where maybe a CRO has done a dispute that potentially, like you said, you might have to redo it, or that maybe even potentially caused a problem for the litigation process itself? Have you ever seen
Yeah, I would say one big thing that we do ask is we do ask when you do send that client over to us, and if we are going to file that into litigation, we do ask that your disputes be put on hold or paused. The reason we ask that is because it definitely affects the credibility of the client. When we already have litigation going, we already have a case live, and they are now receiving more disputes on behalf of that client. A lot of times that draws out the litigation process. And once again, it just calls into question the credibility of the client. Hey, you're already suing us for this stuff. Why are you still filing this stuff to us? So we do ask that those disputes be put on hold, number one. And then number two, what we typically see is we do want to see the simple language, because a lot of times you are receiving those stall or third-party letters because they're a little bit too complex. Break it down, make it simple language. People reading these letters are not attorneys, are not paralegals. They're like all of us, right? And so if you use that language, many people aren't sure. They're not going to quickly Google. They're just going to throw that over into a pile, whatever. I'm not sure kind of that process, right? But please use simple language. Make it very, very, very basic. And like I said before, break it down like you're speaking to your grandmother and explaining it to her.
I see Sheila has her hand up, and then Catherine has a question in the chat after Sheila.
Hi. So, Ian, I have a question
Yes.
going back to the previous slide that you had. So just for clarification, we put the dispute in with the credit bureaus. It comes back, the information is still in the credit report. Then we submit the information to your portal. After that point of time, you said that you would dispute it again after it's submitted to the portal, correct?
In certain cases, yes. So in certain cases when, let's just say, for example, there are 20 items on your previous dispute, okay? Let's say there were 20 items that you were disputing. We would love to see that dispute letter just to see if that really got through, right? Because if they had 20 items and they just threw it aside, what we are trying to do is we're going through that redispute process to specifically dispute that singular item to confirm that it is an FCRA violation. Remember, the ultimate goal is to help the client and get this negative item and this error removed, right? And so that's the ultimate goal. So if we go through that redispute process and that item does get removed, great, perfect. That is the ultimate goal, is to help the client get that item removed.
Correct. But it's still a violation, though, because it stayed on there after the first dispute. So you would still continue with legal action?
We would have to redispute just because we want to make sure that it is a violation. If they're just disregarding that letter, then we want to make sure that the language in the letter, that's why we say the plain and simple language, we want to make sure that there hasn't been anything misconstrued. Once again, if the If the previous dispute didn't have an account number or it didn't have the amount, if there was one little piece of information missing, then that could break a foundation. And so what we're doing is we're really trying to make sure that that foundation is as strong as possible to take it to litigation.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm just trying to understand, and this is where I'm getting confused, a valid violation for you and your organization to seek legal action is after not my first round, but after your first round. So literally it's after there is communication after 60 days, right? So it's the first time I
I
make my attempt, and then it's the second
I
time you
would
make your attempt.
say, not to interrupt you, but I think that's not necessarily true. It depends on whether your dispute letter was a well put together dispute letter. And that's
Right. So
part
let's
of
just say
why we're
that it
doing
is.
this is to make sure you guys know that a lot of times the way that we're doing dispute letters don't set up litigation, right?
Correct. So if the letter was done the right way, I've watched the presentation, I submitted it the correct way,
Yeah.
right? It's submitted the right way, then again, McCarthy Law, they do their second round. What I'm really trying to understand is when is it considered a true violation? Because that's the gray area that is still not clear to me, right? If
Understood.
you know what I mean, if they have totally ignored the first round of letters and I did it the right way, then
Then
in
we
my
would
mind,
take
that's
it
a
to
violation,
litigation
right?
right away. Then we would
Okay.
take it to litigation right away. If those dispute letters were great, and like I said, if you did it the kind of way that we did, and we saw that and you disputed that, you sent those dispute letters over to us, then we could file that into litigation right away without redisputing. The redispute really comes into place when the dispute language in the dispute letter that was first sent was not, did not pack that punch.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so
And
once
Sheila,
again,
unfortunately, that's a lot of the cases.
I know, I know, I
That's
know,
why
I
we're
know.
doing this today.
You
Right?
know, the goal is really to make sure that if it can be legally pursued, that it's done the correct way. And I guess to me, I'm just trying to think if we're giving them a second opportunity with that second round, and they do remove it, then that violation opportunity is gone.
Sheila, you're nailing it right there. And that's why, once again, we're kind of doing this whole live stream is we want these dispute letters to be done correctly and the best of their
First
ability
time.
the first time. Yes,
Got it.
because
Got
then
it.
we can take it right into litigation. And like Ali said, unfortunately, right now, what we do typically see is we do typically see letters that don't meet the standard and we have to redispute. Right back to your point, it then gives those bureaus that second opportunity to rectify that error, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where everything is to timing. And we want to make sure that those first round of dispute letters that are sent out are up to standard, perfect, amazing, so that when that client is sent over to us, we can look at those dispute letters and be like, okay, these were great, perfect. Yes, it's a violation now, and now we can file it into litigation. So I hope that answered your question, Sheila.
It did. Thank you.
Of course.
And remember, Level Up Score will be showcasing where we'll be showing some of those common errors that might be showing up on credit reports. We'll flag those for you. So that's coming up. I think it was supposed to be finished this week, so I'm really excited about that. So that'll give you a good idea as a CRO. If you start seeing stuff flagged, now you know before you start your dispute processes what things you should be doing, right? Instead of doing, excuse me, a lot of CROs are doing widespread disputes, right? And so I think Anne is trying to say that wouldn't be the appropriate way if you're setting up for litigation, right? So knowing that is really important.
Mhm.
And that's really why we're doing this too, is showing those common things that would show up on a credit report. So now you're targeting that thing rather than 20 things on a credit report, right? Which I think is really important. And you're going to help your client better, right? Especially you guys that are working with clients who are buying a home. If we can litigate and they get 12, $1,000 to $2,500 in their pocket, you just helped them with down payment, right? What credit repair company can say, I help with down payment, right? So it puts you at a different level of authority in the industry as well.
And back to Sheila, real quick. Once again, that brings it into that time factor. Like you said, if those dispute letters that first round, aren't great, and we do have to redispute, that then pushes it out 60 to 90 days, right? 30, 45 days after each round. And so if somebody is trying to buy a home, there is that time. That time is a factor. So we really do want to make sure that this process can not be hitched. It's just streamlined. It's as quick as possible for the client.
Yeah. I know Yvette has a question. I'm going to go ahead with Catherine's in the chat real fast. She said, "Is there a cost to the client for your services?
No, there is not. There is no out-of-pocket cost credit error litigation. So no, McCarthy Law, we front the litigation cost. What we do is we do recoup those fees on the back end in the form of a success fee. And so no, there is no out-of-pocket cost to the client.
They just have the opportunity to possibly get money in their pocket, which is really
Correct.
amazing and
Correct.
awesome. Very cool. And then Yvette,
Yes, so I wanted to ask, and concerned with the letters and the simplicity of them that you're sending, have you found that they have bypassed the OCR system into the hands of an actual um, credit agency representative by doing them the way that you're doing them?
Um, could you please repeat that question? I apologize for that.
she's referring to the e-Oscar system where it's really computer generated rather than a actual human looking at that letter.
Like I said, we've just seen more traction with the simple language. So as for kind of the electronic review of it, I'm not sure on that, and I really don't. I'm not sure on that one of that. I have to admit. So we have seen, like I said, a lot of traction with just the way that we write our letters, and so we want to see the plain and simple language so that it can be not misconstrued. It's clear, concise, and to the point. So if it is a human reading the letters, there isn't a question what needs to be or what is being disputed. Excuse me.
And I'm going to say it's not. It's not a human looking at that letter. But the reason it probably it has better success is that it is in plain language. It's going to be assumed better that the consumer wrote that letter versus a credit repair organization who's disputing 20 things, right? You're disputing one thing. So I think you're going to get better results. And what he was trying to say earlier was to avoid those stall letters and stuff that you might be getting.
Thank you.
And so this is a whole nother class on another day, but I'll just give this to you. That computer system that they use is so freaking amazing that it knows your ink that you use. It knows the type of printer you use. It knows your font. It knows everything about you. And I can't tell you how many times even 20 years ago in the credit space, I would get a fax from Equifax saying, hey, we got one of your letters. My name's not anywhere on that letter. I didn't even know it's mine. It's their technology is really, really good. And they know where it's coming from. So that's one of the reasons why also there's a plethora of stall letters. So I make my clients, if I want to do it to the credit bureaus, they have to print them out and mail them out, sign them, all those things, because then it's different ink and I get more success. So people are like, why, how are you so successful at your disputes? Because the way that I do them, guys. But I'm not widespread disputing either.
One of the biggest things that they look at too right away is look at the zip code. If it's coming from a different state and your client lives in a different state, that's
the other reason. They have to print and mail it. That computer is going to look at that envelope. It's looking at the city and state, that postage stamp at the top, where the post office stamps where it came from. If that does not match the zip code of your consumer, that's going to red flag that as, the consumer didn't send that. So that's the other thing it does.
But what law is it that they cannot get someone help to do that? So I've always argued this. Like,
I agree. I don't think there is a law. I think it's just their way of saying, hey, I'm really confused here. I don't think you did this. I need proof that you did this. It's just, again, it's a stall, right? It's not a law that says you can't help them. They're just saying, hey, we really don't think you did it, consumer. That's just their way of not doing their job at that. Come on, You might have been sued, right?
I know, right? It irritates me. But the second part of the question, and again, I'm just asking public thinking questions.
Yeah.
So do you prefer that the CROs write first to the creditor or the furnisher rather than the reporting agencies?
That's truthfully your preference. We don't recommend either. Truthfully, we recommend just sending them both out at the same time if you would like. There's not a preference on priority of if you should do one first before the other.
Okay.
I'll answer that from my perspective, only because I do things different than most CROs, right? I would say if you're setting up for litigation, a great way to do it is probably the credit bureau route. And because that's who they're going to be suing, the credit bureau first and foremost, or sending it to both. But what I do, because my first and foremost, my job as a credit expert is not so much to put someone in, to do litigation. My first job is to help the consumer the fastest way I possibly can. So what I do is I write the letter to the creditor and very simple language, same thing. I'm not disputing anything. I'm just saying, here's what I saw this on my credit report. I need this information so I can validate it. And by the way, I saw these errors in my report. Can you fix them? That's all my letter says, specifically states what those errors are, right? And oftentimes I get a letter from the creditor that says, "Hey, we found the errors that you're speaking of. We have deleted this from the credit report and removed this debt from your client." I get those letters all the time. I'll have to start posting them because I think they're fun. But I get those all the time from going straight to the creditor. Now, of course, then I don't get to put the client in litigation, but that wasn't my first initial goal, right? Now, if you are in a CRO, or you're not a CRO, you're not getting paid that full service, and you want to go a route where you're kind of helping the consumer and set up for litigation, maybe you're doing it where you're sending it to the creditor and the credit bureau at the same time to see if that triggers a litigation case. Does that help?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Somebody asked, what states are you licensed in? I'll go ahead and answer that because that is all 50 states. We said that in the beginning. Yeah, and Sheila answered that question too. And then what would the payment be per violation? So I'm guessing I'm going to add to that question. If I'm getting an affiliate payment from you for that client who has an FCRA violation, let's say they have 4 FCRA violations on one credit report, what do I get paid for that? And then the second question would be, does the consumer get paid for each violation of that 1,000 to 2,500, or is that a one-time? Can you help us with that?
Yes, I will definitely break that down. For the affiliate side of things, for the kind of numbers, I will say if you want kind of specific numbers, please scan that QR code. I can give you more information specifically on those. Now, we are paying that referral fee for the client, the entire client, okay? Number one, and then number two, the breakdown for damages for the client, it is 1,000 for the first claim and 500 for each additional. So if we're kind of looking at a cookie cutter FCRA case, we are usually going after a furnisher and the 3 bureaus. And so in that instance, that's where that client would receive $2,500. Now, if there were multiple FCRA violations and multiple things going on, we would definitely discuss that with the client. And there would be ongoing correspondence between the client and the attorney if that thing was, blown up, right? So 1,000 to 1,000 for the first claim, 500 for each additional is that breakdown.
Michelle said, nice. I've been looking for something like this. Me too, Michelle. It's awesome. Another thing you and I spoke about, Ian, the other day was we talked about kind of that journey, which we're showing on the screen, which I think this is the reason it's brought it to my attention. The referral fee that you are getting paid when you submit this to McCarthy Law is happening at the lawsuit. But there's one key thing that's really important for you guys to know. They can't proceed to that stage without consumers signing an agreement that they want McCarthy Law to work on their behalf for the litigation. So it is going to be important for you as a CRO to be in that communication and making sure that the client's doing the things. If you want to see them proceed with the lawsuit, you get your referral fee and they get the results that they're looking for from using your service. But I just want to kind of point that out, Anne, but there was something else you said, that there are credit repair companies that like to act like they're the attorneys and that McCarthy Law works for them or whatever, and they're trying to push McCarthy Law out of the process and try to, that's not the appropriate way to do this. And it's not, you're not an attorney. You can say, hey, I have an attorney that we work with that I'm going to refer you to. Please don't pretend like McCarthy Law is your attorney office. That's not legit. It's not legal. You are not an attorney. Let the attorneys do the attorney job.
Yes, yes. And very much so is we are not going to tell you how to run your business because it's your business, right? And so same kind of on the reverse end is just please don't misconstrued or have the client misconstrued you as McCarthy Law. That is the only thing, right? So just kind of like piggybacking what Allie just said, we really do appreciate kind of hands-on CROs, people that are active and, hey, how's it going with McCarthy Law? we're completely fine with you checking in with those kinds of things. Now, if we do file a case, the big question that I commonly get very frequently is, hey, Ian, can you give me an update? What's going on? Once that case is filed, that does then get into the client attorney confidentiality piece. So unfortunately, if you were to call me and that case was in litigation, I would be barely able to give you any information on that. So if you do want to get some information on that, please ask the client, hey, what's the status of this? How is it going? What's going on? Those kinds of things, because it does kind of tie our hands a little bit when we do get those questions, just because legally we cannot divulge that information. I just wanted to share that as well.
Another thing that I was thinking of is, well, first, to just go off of that, obviously, guys, we're talking to our clients all the time. We can get that information from our clients. How's things going? Is there any, that kind of thing. So I think that's important for you to know. But one thing that I think is important, and I really love this about McCarthy Law, because a lot of other attorneys don't do it this way, is that I can still have credit monitoring on. I can still be facilitating and helping that client through other things other than disputes, right? For that client. So what I mean by that is with Level Up Score, right? When we're running those action plans through, there's a lot of things the consumer can be doing to get themselves prepared for that home buying purchase or the car, or whatever their goal is, that we can be helping them with while McCarthy Law is doing their job. So you do not have to turn off the credit monitoring. You can still proceed and help the client. So you didn't lose if you're a full service, you didn't lose that monthly commission. You didn't lose that affiliate commission from the credit monitoring, which I think is so amazing, because a lot of them tell you to do that. And then you're kind of, well, can't do anything now that the attorney has it. So I really like that, because you can be helping on both sides, right? So I think that's important for you to know. And then there was something else I wanted to say that was really important that I thought for me on my side with working with you guys. Time frame. Typical average time frame from the time the consumer comes to you to the time of resolution. What do you typically see?
Yes, so we typically see on average 120 days. Okay, so that is
6 months.
6 months, right? And so that is the number one thing, is the time frame. And once again, this goes back to Sheila's question where, hey, guys, if that stuff is ready and that first round of disputes have reached the standard, then those things are ready and that time frame can be shortened, right? Now, everything is uncertain, right? Law, all that kind of stuff, how long, client correspondence, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, 120 days is the average time frame that we see. But if those dispute letters are already teed up and we're all ready to go into litigation, then who's to say that those can't go a little bit quicker, right? That is the one thing. And like I kind of said, is that client may wait those 120 days to receive their resolution, their settlement. You, as the referrer within the McCarthy Law affiliate program, you will actually be paid out the following month on the 15th. So if a case was filed here today, then you would receive a check on the 15th of August. And so that's how that works. More information, please scan that QR code on these later slides.
So you do not have to wait for the resolution, which I think is really cool. The reason I point that out with time frame is, and thank you for saying, hey, you don't really have, this is our average, right? We don't know, because all kinds of things can happen in the process, just like our business, right? We can't tell someone that wants to buy a house, we look at their credit report and we say, oh, 6 months, we got you. I mean, that's not going to happen. But the reason I point that out is, in most instances, when someone comes to you as a credit repair professional, we're looking at 3 to 6 months at the minimum, right? So I had someone who was doing, she was working with mostly mortgage lenders. And she's like, well, I can't do something like McCarthy Law, because then I need to turn these people back over for a loan as fast as possible. Get it. Been there, done that. That's all of my business. But most of my clients are looking at that 3 to 6 month time frame anyway. And I can now possibly hand them money. I think I might win that deal over you if you're not doing that. But again, this is where communication with your client, like, what is your goal? What's time lane, and that kind of thing. Because if I give them an action plan and they say, I can get all this stuff done right now, and they're not concerned about that there's errors on their credit report, they just want to get to the goal, then maybe I'm pushing for that first and come back to them after they get their home and say, hey, let's look at this again. We still have those FCRA violations. Are you ready to take? And I guarantee you they're going to say yes. So it just, again, a conversation you can have. You can either start it that way or end it later that way. And then you get to continue to have that client. I had mentioned to a lot of people that I coach that my LTV for my client is 16 months. And I don't know any other credit repair companies. I hope somebody comments and says they got a longer one than me, but I don't know any that has a 16-month average. Okay. That means what that means is that on average for 16 months, they are my client. That's a long time. So people will sometimes ask me, well, Allie, you must not do your job very well. On the contrary, I do it so well, they don't want to leave me, right? They want to continuously get the action plan. They want to make sure they stay on track. And we go in through we start with reactive credit coaching to proactive, setting the stage for financial stability to wealth building, right? So just kind of consider that you don't have to be I hope you're not just a credit repair person. I hate that name. I hate CRO actually, because if we're really doing our job, we're way more than a credit repair professional, and having affiliate type resources like McCarthy Law just advances our ability to do a really solid job for our clients. So we appreciate you so much for being here. Going to see if there's any other questions, and if you want, we can go to the last slide here that we have, and if we have any questions, we can talk about those real quickly.
We'll leave this QR code up. Once again, everybody, this is the QR code for the McCarthy Law affiliate program. Like I said, it will be a little bit of a form fill. You're going to put your information in there, and then one of our representatives will reach out to you either by phone call or email just to coordinate the best time with you to sit down and have a brief conversation and break those details down.
And if for some reason you're unable to scan this QR code, of course, you can go into your Level Up Score software, and there's that affiliate tab. And right inside of that affiliate tab, obviously, is McCarthy Law. You can click there to go through the same process. We thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anybody have any last questions? All right, we're gonna rock and roll. I appreciate you. I'm going to lunch. My son's buying me lunch today. I am lucky. Yeah, and he's my favorite Mexican. So that's what I'm doing.
Sounds wonderful right now.
All right. Well, I appreciate you all. Have a beautiful day, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having me.